The open road, freedom and possibility, the wind in your hair, and the occasional hitchhiking sex worker who might just shoot you in the chest and steal your car. Wow! Yes, today we're talking about the tragic and complicated case of Aileen Wuornos, branded by the media as the damsel of death and the highway hooker from hell. And despite how fun alliterative media nicknames from the 90s can be, the reality behind America's most famous female serial killer is much less of a simple good versus evil story and more of a what happens when a human hand grenade rolls through a minefield of grifters, narcissists, and corrupt prosecutor story. So buckle up, because this one starts bad, stays bad, and ends bad. From the start, Aileen was dealt the Uno reverse card of childhoods. Abandoned by her mom, routinely sexually assaulted, pregnant by 14, kicked out and living in the woods for 2 years, it's not a surprise that she had to resort to sex work to survive from a very young age. Throughout her 20s, she was arrested many times for all kinds of things, but by the time she got to her 30s and realized she was a lesbian, she had a brief few years of happiness after meeting the love of her life, Tyra Moore. The two bonded over their shared interests like drinking beer and firing pistols in the woods, and while it was Aileen's happiest chapter, it also became the chapter where she kills 7 men in 1 year. So, context. According to Aileen, around this time, many of the regular sex work clients she had that she felt safe with left Florida to go and fight in the Gulf War. And Tyra, seeing her partner in sudden financial distress, made the really noble decision to do absolutely nothing to help financially and instead encouraged Aileen to return to the much more dangerous world of pursuing sex work along the side of the Florida highway. Aww. Yeah, Tyra's sweet, love her. Things officially went south beginning in November of 1989, when Aileen says she murdered Richard Mallory in self-defense after he brutally assaulted her and she feared for her life. Had it ended there, Aileen probably would have gotten away with it, but things went on to get more complicated, and by get more complicated, I mean she killed 6 more people. Each time robbing the victims, abandoning their bodies somewhere in the woods off the highway, and stealing their cars. After this unfortunate police sketch started to circulate and fingerprints from one of the victims' cars were connected back to Aileen, she was eventually taken into custody. Meanwhile, Tyra, fearing for her own safety, agreed to work with the police and elicit a confession from Aileen in a taped phone call. Let's take a beat and breathe while we watch this baby feed this rabbit, because here's where things start to really go off the rails, because no, we hadn't gotten to that part yet. Apparently, before police even arrested Aileen, there were ongoing conversations between the police and Hollywood movie producers to sell the rights to Aileen's story, and eventually multiple police officers were fired over this scandal, and according to some, there's suspicion that Aileen's girlfriend Tyra was involved in these film discussions as well. Aww. Right? Really loving her, such a giver. And here's where things go from unusual to a full what the f***. Several months after Aileen's arrest, a born-again Christian woman named Arlene Prawl says that she saw Aileen's picture in the newspaper and Jesus told her to adopt her. Ugh, hate when that happens. But was this an act of kindness or an attempt to profit off of the media attention on Aileen's story? Depends on which documentary you watch, but Arlene and her husband made quite a lot of money off of their media appearances, money that they needed to save their horse farm. Arlene also says she was spending $1,200 a month on phone calls to Aileen in prison, so call me crazy, but feels like she could have just skipped all this and kept her horse farm by staying off the phone, but I'm not a mathematician or getting directives from Jesus, so what do I know? Arlene also claims when she first saw Aileen's picture in the paper that she knew there was no way she was guilty of these murders, but as we'll get to, she also is seemingly the one who convinces Aileen to confess to the murders and plead guilty, so how that makes any sense I'm unclear, but given everything else that I've learned about Arlene, somehow tracks. Okay, so one more quick breath with that same baby from before who's now feeding a goat, because here's where it goes full zero dark 30. So keeping in mind that this was Florida in the early 90s, I don't think you have to go too far out on a limb to acknowledge that a case involving a lesbian sex worker who only killed middle-aged white men was pretty much the pinnacle of everything that those in power in the state of Florida were prone to hate and villainize. This was on full display in Aileen's trial for the murder of her first victim, Richard Mallory. The lead prosecutor for the case, John Tanner, was actively running for state's attorney in Florida during the trial and really went out of his way to look like a Christian hero and convict Aileen for political points. First, he had the case moved to Dayland, Florida, where the jury was all but guaranteed to be super religious and anti-sex worker. Then he had the female judge assigned to the case who was known for, God forbid, giving fair trials, fired and replaced by a male judge he was real buddy-buddy with. He and his judge friend then made the highly unusual move of allowing the evidence from all 7 of Aileen's murders to be introduced to the jury, despite the fact that the trial was only for the murder of Richard Mallory, something that John Tanner himself admits was key to convicting Aileen. And finally, and most egregious of all, the judge did not allow for any evidence to be introduced to the jury, which clearly proved that Richard Mallory was previously convicted of assault and intent to rape and had spent 10 years in an institute for criminal sexual deviance, which I'm no lawyer, but feels like maybe would have been real relevant. After her first trial ended in her being convicted of Mallory's murder with a unanimous vote for the death penalty, Aileen fired her attorney and, at the suggestion of her Jesus-appointed mother Arlene, hired lawyer Stephen Glazer, who went more prominently by his nickname Dr. Legal, wish I was kidding, and made the curious choice in all of her remaining trials to plead no contest, essentially allowing her to skip the trials of the other 6 victims and receive her additional death sentences. By some reports, this is what Aileen wanted, and by some reports, this is what, as mentioned previously, Dr. Legal and Jesus Mom convinced her to do. Sidebar, one of the documentaries on this case also features a lengthy debate over whether or not Dr. Legal smoked 7 joints before giving Aileen legal advice, and also features a weird amount of his original songs he wrote about being a defense attorney. Sadly, I don't have the rights to show you any of that footage, but let's just say that in comparison to Dr. Legal, this stud from stock footage is literally Beyonce. Dr. Legal also made no attempts to investigate the police movie selling scandal and bring it to the court, something that, if successfully done, seemingly could have overturned all of Aileen's convictions. So, were the murders self-defense or not? It's kind of like asking what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's hard to explain, but somehow you know the answer is some version of shut up, yes. Initially, Aileen claimed that all of them were self-defense, but in other later interviews she says that none of them were self-defense, while in still others she says that some of them were self-defense. But the more you watch, it also becomes increasingly clear that Aileen has understandably lost faith in the justice system, and in a moment that she thinks the camera is off of her, she confesses to documentarian Nick Broomfield that they were self-defense, but she doesn't want anyone to know because she has no faith things will ever get better for her legal case, and she just wants to die and meet Jesus, and she can't risk it messing up her execution. So dark. There's no more stock footage of this baby feeding animals, so here they are side by side. I don't know, I can't break this tension. For at least one of the murders, Aileen admits in an interview that she killed the guy because he told her he was a drug smuggler and she just didn't like that. So that one at least is, yeah, that's murder. The night before her execution, Aileen reportedly admitted to her best friend Dawn that she, quote, robbed to kill and killed to rob, and was, in fact, a serial killer. So all that mixed together is how we answer was it self-defense or was it not, with a big old potpourri of yes. In October of 2002, Aileen was executed by lethal injection, her last words being, "I would just like to say I'm sailing with the rock and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. Big mothership and all, I'll be back, I'll be back." While I'm not sure Aileen will be back on the mothership like Independence Day, for her sake, I hope she does get another chance at life. It wouldn't be hard for it to go better than the last time. So what did we learn here? If your defense attorney introduces himself as Dr. Legal, fire him immediately, even if Jesus told your new mom to hire him. If your partner takes a pay cut and is struggling to make ends meet while you drink beer at home all day, maybe get a job and help them instead of encouraging them to be a side of the Florida highway sex worker. And if you still need money after that, maybe have a baby and get them into stock footage work feeding baby animals, because I could have used a lot more of these. Quick reminder that I'm not a journalist or a detective. I'm just a guy who spends a weird amount of time on these videos in pursuit of the belief that you should be able to learn everything interesting about a murder case in the same amount of time it takes you to eat your sad leftovers for lunch. No, that's not a judgment. Yes, I just ate leftovers for lunch, and yes, I am sad about it. So if you like this video, finish that bite, hit subscribe, comment below with which convicted murderer Jesus is telling you to adopt, and I'll see you in the next one.